This is Edward Hopper. He's been one of my favorite painters, well, is one of my favorite painters, and will probably stay as one of my favorite painters for a while. I mean, just look at my room. Okay, I only have one poster of a Hopper, but you get my point, right? And although most sources say he was released before Minecraft, his works always feel like a Hopper to me. They usually appear empty, but always carry so much. Wow, that was profound. And I'm not going to sit here or stand here and pretend I'm cool and special for loving Hopper. He's not underground. Hopper is universally loved, and it's easy to see why. His paintings, or at least his most popular ones, are always almost so easy to place yourself into and are so open to interpret however you like. Whenever he painted people, which wasn't uncommon, there was always a striking sense of isolation and, as art historian and Hopper expert Lloyd Goodrich once put it, monumental silence. Hopper is often identified as a realist painter. And when I refer to realism, I'm not talking about highly naturalistic photographic detail or something along those lines. I'm talking about the art movement, which its founder, Gustave Courbet, called the negation of the ideal. But for me, and since he's so popular for a lot of people probably, what makes Hopper so special is his ability to suck the air out of you and force you to take a deep breath with his painting. For me, Hopper speaks so much more because his works function in the context of America and profound stillness, whereas Courbet's function in the context of France, naked women, and miners, none of which I'm too familiar with. Of course, that's ignorant, and Courbet's work is rightfully powerful and moving in its own sense. Whatever. This video isn't about Courbet. I don't know why I went on a Courbet tangent, and I don't even know if I'm pronouncing his name right. This video isn't about realism, or it's not even about Hopper as a whole. This video is about his painting, Lighthouse Hill. So I don't have the highest resolution image here since I'm not in a museum, but it is at the DMA. So if this resolution bothers you, I don't know, just Google a better picture or go outside for once and go to the museum. Every time I go to the DMA, I just have to see this painting. If I remember correctly, it's tucked away somewhere in the corner of, I think, some part of the American art section near Henry Ossawa Tanner, DeMuth, and I think Georgia O'Keeffe, which makes pretty decent sense considering the chronological context of all those works. Either way, it's stunning, and it's pretty great that it's in part of the museum where there's not a lot of foot traffic, at least when I've gone. And for me, of course, and probably for most people who've gone to the museum, more often than not, I'm more ready to enjoy art in the way that I like to when I'm isolated. Not necessarily physically, but at least mentally. Mentally isolated, alone, and silent. Even if I'm going to discuss something with someone else, my brain's usually still somewhere else. And I think that's part of what makes Hopper's work so universally accessible and enjoyable. He carries that same solitude onto the canvas. So you know you're in a museum looking at paint on a canvas when you're viewing his works. And that makes it so much easier to digest it. You're not trying to decode religious iconography or artifacts, both of which to me are valuable in their own sense, of course, but you're taking in visual poetry. So, anyways, back to the painting. We're looking up a hill, which has, well, a lighthouse. Oh! So, for this work, which I adore so much, I've never really taken the time to consider whether the lighthouse or the cottage or hill or anything else is like a super significant visual motif with deep hidden messages about something. To me, the special bits of this work are the light and the dark, the stillness and the movement, and of course, that beautiful blue sky. One thing that's clear is that nothing's too clear in this painting. In the typical Hopper style, nothing's too precisely detailed, but unlike, say, a definitively impressionist work where everything is carefully ensured to be a bit blurry, Hopper variates his level of detail on different things to grab our attention. The greenery on the hill is pretty wispy and free flowing, but the lighthouse is definitely decently detailed. Outside of simple precision, consider the source of the light. We have no idea, or I have no idea, maybe some super genius historian or scientist knows, whether it's morning or evening or whatever time it is. And then, of course, we don't know if the viewer has just come down from the hill, has gone around it, is about to go up, or is just stopping by to enjoy the view. What do we want to do with this view? Going back to light, it's important to note just how extreme the contrast is between light and dark on this hill, which isn't unnatural, but it's definitely striking, at least to me. And still, there's more. The buildings are so still, almost lifeless, especially since there's no people here. But the grass is moving freely and dancing wildly in the wind and light, something we can feel in the clouds in the back as well. So, with this work, like with so many other hoppers, we're given a snapshot of a movement that we've all had, one where we can't help but to just stand and think, weigh the unmoving and constantly changing, the light and the dark, where we want to go, whether we want to climb this hill or are scared by it. One source I saw called the shadows menacing and the dark windows on the house uninviting. Then, in the midst of all this, the gorgeous blue sky snaps a sense of lightheartedness back into this painting. It's not a work of despair, but there is some, like in all moments of life. But the blue sky captures all the worries of the land below. It's a gradient with moving clouds. It's solid in some places, but always unsure in others. But it's all beautiful. Of course, this is a lame, cheesy outlet, but it's an important reminder of even if in these moments of thought, even though you might not be purposely reminded of the reality of life, eventually you are. This is one of my favorite paintings ever because it serves as such a perfect meeting place for so many thoughts. Whether that's about where I am in my life at one exact moment, about one exact thing, or my existence as a whole, or even beyond that, where my thoughts themselves come from and take me, as it reminds me, like I said earlier, that I'm still in a museum, looking at paint on a canvas. Oh, and also it's just really pretty.